Have you ever watched your entire world collapse through the cracked screen of a cell phone? The glow of my wife Sarah's phone was the only light in our bedroom at 2 a.m., a tiny, toxic beacon in the darkness we once called sacred. Her thumb swiped lazily, a smile ghosting her lips as she read a message I wasn't supposed to see. It wasn't the message itself that broke me, but the casual intimacy of it. The way she held the phone to her chest like a secret lover after she was done. I saw a name I didn't recognize, Marcus. So the message was simple. Can't stop thinking about the W. You're a goddess. The W, the Westin on Michigan Avenue. The hotel where she'd claimed to have a marketing conference last weekend. My heart didn't just break, it atomized. In that moment, lying next to the woman I'd promised my life to, I understood I was sleeping with a stranger. I knew with a chilling certainty that settled deep in my bones that simply leaving would never be enough. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. The humiliation was a physical thing, a hot sickness that lived in my gut. The next morning, she kissed me goodbye, her lips still tasting of the mint toothpaste we shared, and the hypocrisy was staggering. Big day at the gallery, lots of inventory to move, she said, her voice bright and phony. I just nodded, the words trapped in my throat. I watched her drive away in the Mercedes I'd bought her for our 5th anniversary, a rolling monument to my own stupidity. The strange behavior, once a collection of disconnected oddities, now snapped into focus like a constellation of betrayal. The late nights she blamed on demanding clients. The sudden, obsessive privacy with her phone, which was now perpetually silenced and face down. The new, expensive lingerie she'd bought but never worn for me. It was a classic, pathetic script, and I was the fool playing the lead role. She grew colder, more manipulative. When I'd ask about her day, her answers became clipped, annoyed, as if my interest was an intrusion. It was fine, just busy, she'd snap, her eyes already back on her phone. One evening, I tried to bring up the distance between us. I found her on the balcony of our downtown Chicago condo, the city lights painting her in a glow she didn't deserve. Sarah, are we okay? I asked, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. She turned, her expression one of pure condescension. We'd be better if you stopped being so needy, Alex, she said, her tone sharp as glass. I'm building a career. You should try to be supportive instead of suffocating. She made me feel like the problem. Her and Marcus, they felt untouchable. I once saw them from across the street, having lunch at a cafe on Rush Street. He was leaning in, his hand on her arm, and she was laughing. A genuine, vibrant laugh I hadn't heard in years. They looked like the perfect couple, radiating a smug energy that made me want to vomit right there on the sidewalk. The breakdown happened on a Tuesday. I was in a parking garage on Lower Wacker Drive, the smell of damp concrete and exhaust fumes filling my lungs. I had just paid a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop named Sal, everything I had in my personal savings. He'd handed me a manila envelope thick with photos. Photos of Sarah and Marcus checking into the peninsula. Photos of them kissing against the railing by the Chicago Riverwalk. Photos of his hand sliding down the back of her dress. I sat in my car, the engine off, and I just shattered. A guttural sob ripped out of me, a sound of pure agony that echoed in the empty garage. It was the death of a decade of my life, the death of the future I'd so carefully built. When the tears finally stopped, something else had taken their place. Ice. The grief was still there, but it had been weaponized. It was cold, hard, and ruthlessly clear. My new purpose in life wasn't to move on. It was to burn their world to the ground. I began gathering proof with the detached precision of a surgeon. Sal was my instrument. He dug into Marcus's life, and what he found was interesting. Marcus wasn't the wealthy investment banker Sarah had bragged about. He was a fraud, a con artist with a string of debts and a history of seducing wealthy women. But Sal found something else, a detail so perfect, so beautifully poetic, it felt like a gift from the gods of vengeance. Marcus was also the subject of an ongoing undercover investigation by the Chicago PD's Economic Crimes Unit. He was a suspect in a high-end art forgery ring, the very same world my wife curated her life in. The trap began to build itself. I opened a new, secret bank account and started liquidating certain joint assets. moving the funds slowly, meticulously. I contacted a shark of a divorce attorney, a woman named Ms. Albright, who smiled when I laid out the evidence. "Oh, this will be fun," she'd purred. The social trap was even more delicious. Sarah's gallery was hosting its biggest event of the year, a black tie charity auction. All of her high society friends, her clients, her boss, everyone who mattered to her would be there. And so would I. The night of the auction was electric. The gallery was filled with the clinking of champagne glasses and the low hum of pretentious conversation. Sarah was in her element, floating through the room in a backless red dress, a queen in her fraudulent kingdom. She barely acknowledged me, offering only a tight, dismissive smile. She was standing with her boss and a major client when I made my move. I'd timed it perfectly with Ms. Albright. At exactly 9:15 p.m., a uniformed officer walked through the door and served Sarah divorce papers right there in the middle of the gallery. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Her face went white. "What is this, Alex? What are you doing?" she hissed, her voice trembling with rage. "This is accountability, Sarah," I said, my voice calm and loud enough for everyone to hear. "For the affair? For the lies?" I gestured toward the entrance, and on cue, 2 more men walked in. They weren't in uniform, they were detectives. They walked straight past a stunned Sarah and approached Marcus, who was trying to slip out the back. "Marcus Thorne," one of them said, his voice booming. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud." The room fell into a dead, shocked silence. Sarah's head whipped between me and Marcus, her mind failing to connect the dots. And then I delivered the final blow. I stepped forward, holding a small microphone I'd arranged with the event staff for a special announcement. "For those of you who don't know," I began, my voice echoing through the silent room, Marcus was not just my wife's lover. He was also her business partner in a venture to sell forged artwork, some of which is on display here tonight. Panic erupted. Sarah didn't just gasp, she screamed. It was a raw, guttural sound of absolute ruin as she watched her lover being cuffed and her entire professional and social world implode in a single fiery moment. The detectives turned to her. "Ma'am, we're going to need you to come with us." She was completely, utterly ruined. Now, the condo is quiet. The city lights outside the window feel cold and distant. Her lawyers call sometimes, talking about settlements and pleas. I don't answer. I just sit here in the silence. The only sound, the faint hum of the refrigerator. The revenge wasn't a victory. It was a void. I had destroyed everything just as I'd planned. When you burn it all down, you have to live in the ashes.